All right. What do you get if you go all the way up to the northernmost part of Greenland? Here. The answer is you get the chance to find DNA from these guys. Look at that. Yeah. Mastodons, woolly mammoths, that sort of thing. So let's get into it because some of this DNA is still around in the permafrost soil, essentially. So, first of all, so that's just a little stratigraphic column showing what we got there. Remember that ancient DNA undergoes this transition. So we're going to hydrolysis at this nitrogen right here. This nitrogen is going to pick up a hydrogen to eat up that little bond that was a double bond. And that's fine because nitrogen is super reacty. And so most often you will get replacement here by a water molecule that'll end up making this carbonyl group. So that effectively converts C nucleotides into U nucleotides, even on DNA, even though it's supposed to be a T nucleotide that's there. This deamination is going to convert C into U. So this is going to be a marker of ancient DNA. You can tell how old DNA is by how much C has been turned into U. You can figure out what was supposed to be C by comparing it to a bunch of similar things that are around now and figuring out that, hey, yeah, I can spot that one. That one probably used to be a cytosine, and now it's been turned into a uracil. What gives, DNA? All right, so obligatory first figure in these papers or second figure that's showing you the site. These are the different layers. So they're all above ground now, but these were underground, or rather in the water before. And so they are just picking up little bits of whatever has rotted and come into the water, including little bits of all the things that were living there, including, because these are not that old, these are only about 1 million years old, but here we have fairly pristine, undisturbed, because let me tell you, nobody's living up at the northernmost point in Greenland. But we have something that you can scrape away the surface. You got to sort of mine in there and use special techniques to get out a core of soil. But that soil, this sort of sub-fossil million-year-old soil, is going to still contain traces of whatever it was that was living there at the time. There is actually some DNA retained here. Remember how we said that DNA theoretically should be able to last about 6 million years, but in reality we can't really get much past 1 million years? Yeah, this is one of the papers that goes the farthest back in time. So they're looking and saying, okay, what was happening at this time, and what can we estimate from this? So from the molecules, from the DNA, they can actually take a molecular estimate and say, yeah, it's about this old, which is around 0.9 to 1.1 million years old. From the geology, they're able to say that, okay, these geological formations by geochemical dating should be in this particular range, so somewhere between 2 and 1 million dated at these points, but we're actually sampling a little bit above there, and we've got a good sample from down here, and we can tell this is about 5.5 million years old, 5.2 anyway. And so they're able to bracket it and say, yeah, all right, this thing is a median age of about 1.3 million years, with our error bars being anywhere from about 2/3 of a million years to about 2 million years, being the most likely point at which these samples come from. Neat. And so they got the DNA out. They purified away the DNA from the rest of the rock that's there. They kept the DNA that was showing C to U transitions, because that's a marker of old DNA and not just bacteria that happen to have, survived really close to the North Pole and wormed their way into the sediment, because there are some of those. They're looking for eukaryotes. Now, there's nothing living on this particular area, so there's no plant cover, I don't think. Yeah, no, this is ice and permafrost. This is way too cold. But thanks to global warming, they're able to get up there for like a couple of days in the height of the summer and just barely scrape a little bit of this frozen rock out. And here's what they found. These are all the plants And so aquatic plants and remnants of ferns and variety of other different types of plants, little shrubs and trees that would have been living there at the time. These plants are close enough in time to ones that we know and have genetically sequenced parts of that they can match these ancient plants to modern types of plants. And so you can find different types of trees, which are found, in fairly high Arctic areas now. But you can find the ancient equivalent of these. And these are little fragments of them. These are by no means whole genomes for any of these things. But even getting back fragments from 1.2-ish million years ago is really amazing. And in addition for this, they enriched for animal sequences, and they're able to find, honest to goodness, samples that match with what people have recovered from elephant and mastodon and mammoth teeth. And here they are. They find little bits that seem to go with arthropods, like horseshoe crabs from the Limulidae. For little bits of anthozoan corals, because you do get corals even up at the North Pole in the water. And so they got little bits of those. They got bits of some arthropods. These are Formica, or ants, Formicidae, and bits of rabbits and other little mammals, bits of things like deer and elk, and bits of mammoths. So they're actually able to reconstruct a paleoecosystem in terms of both the plants that were there and the animals that were eating the plants and eating each other in that ecosystem. And they're doing it all from DNA that had just washed off the shores in these sort of swamps during the last really warm period up there, and has been trapped in these geological formations ever since. Isn't that cool? I thought that was pretty neat. So this is just one of many studies that have recovered like mammoth DNA shown up here. Yeah, one of, I hope, more to come. Now, in a lot of areas that are where people live right now, there's going to be a lot of contamination as we drill and dig and move things around and build houses and scrape the earth. We are messing up all of the paleo DNA that is under there, and so it becomes a little harder to find places where you can actually do this. But yeah, as the frozen north warms up, I would say expect some more of these studies and some more interesting things coming out of there. So yeah, the global north and global extreme south are essentially time capsules that are waiting for us. And when those thaw, particularly in the north, because there's more land under the north, I think, and in Antarctica, yeah, actually down in the south, I think we're going to find some really interesting new stuff out about those areas. So there you go. Thanks very much.